Hey folks, morning. My name is Yuan. So today I will be doing a talk called Chatbot Chronicles and Intern's Adventure in Serverless Wonder. So a little bit about me. I'm actually previously intern software engineer at Liberty IT. I just finished my internship last week. So right now I'm unemployed, couch potato at home. To the end of this month, I'm going back to my final year. And besides work and study, I organize events, communities, and conferences such as Belfast Island, Women Tap Maker, and also NIDC. Yeah, check them out, okay? Just plug it there. So, okay, I'm curious. How many folks here actually filed an insurance claim before? Quite a lot, okay. Well, you know what? I never. I never filed an insurance claim for my personal reason, but recently my husband had to go through that experience. And let me tell you, my God, that was so torture to watch. And so let me write it down to his user journey there. So at first, we were on the website, right? We were trying to find some information, but we couldn't find the needed information. Then the next step, from the customer service, it reached the chatbot first. However, the chatbot was only having the capability to navigate the call to different departments. After we finally reached to the customer service agent, he was told to submit some documents through email and has to wait 5 to 10 working days. And I was like, wait, this is 2024, you know? I mean, that sounds really strange experience there. So at the end of it, and he has to send an email. This is not a good user experience. So if we can break it into different phases. So in phase one, when the user is on the website, it will be great. It will be great to have all the needed information there, but it's never the case. If that's the case, why you need customer service? So before we talk about the chatbot phase, let's look at the customer service agent phase. So in this case, the customer service agent was only answering a simple inquiry. That's not something complex, right? And in my opinion, that information should be on the website or at least let the user to self-service in the chatbot. So now we jump into the chatbot phase. So instead of only having the capability to have to navigate the call to different departments, this phase it can be designed to allow the user to self-service. And also in between, I mean, like in this period, the user's experience is in between satisfied and dissatisfied. Generally, is that case. So it would be a really good opportunity to bring the user experience back to satisfied. Improve user experience just make you feel so hassle. So a few years ago, Liberty Mutual Insurance has an opportunity to resolve the heavy cost on call center. Not joking, they're not cheap, okay? And the goal, it was to contain the call within chatbot to try to deflect the calls from call center to digital platform and improving customer experience. And this is a part of timeline from initial chatbot MVP to full scaling, right? So serverless enable the project to scale really easily and also allow the developers to focus on like adding capability such as like multi-channel, omni-channel, etc. I was actually told by some folks in my team, my previous team, is that the architectural pattern remains very similar since the project scale, and I will show you fools later. It's actually not extremely complex. But every project has its own challenges. So one of the challenges it was facing is the address collection. So for example, when a user trying to file a claim, and then the bot is asking, well, where did the accident happen? The bot sometimes can struggle to recognize the address, right? So in this case, instead of holding the user on this platform, what we can do is that we can move the user to the SMS channel. All they need to do at that time is just to type in the address instead. They don't need to provide other information because all the other information has been filled. But what about for personal challenges, especially for junior who just joined the project? So at the beginning, I was really lack of confidence because we just don't know all the services and the tooling and the languages they use, you know. And first time when I hear about serverless, I was like, what is that? Does it mean like there's no server? I mean, how does it even work? But how to tackle that? Because that was a big issue. So I try a few different ways, and these are the ways that actually I found really helps. So first of all, learn as you do. Everybody will tell you that, you know. I'm sure we all hear that, you know, probably some senior at the beginning tell you about learn as you do. I do believe it works, but I think it works in a limited scale. So let me explain. I mean, like, it will become difficult when the requirement and solution becomes vague. So it will often lead to the engineers only pick up comfortable tickets because they've done something similar before. But this is not helping people to get out of comfort zone. And the next thing is like ask. Always ask when you have no clue. We need to understand that when we first join a project like this, nobody gonna expect you to know everything. That just doesn't make sense. And there's no such thing called stupid question. So I have been at the beginning, I have been trying to these two ways, but I sort of hit a bottleneck there because I realized that all the things I learn and all the things I know is those already have been done in the project. It's not good for innovation. And I believe that when we are in internship, especially, it's a good opportunity to build a solid foundation of our career. So you want to seek more opportunity. Then I move on to then start to do the cloud practitioner, which slowly build up your confidence and get you sort of overview of what services, what do they do, how do they work, etc. Just a tiny wee bit. And then I move on to solution architect associate. I have to say this one is really fun and really enjoyable. It's slightly more difficult, I have to admit. However, during the process when you're learning this, you learn a lot about critical thinking because it teaches you to utilize different services to meet with certain requirements and teach you about different patterns. I really recommend folks to give it a go. So especially like for folks who are new to the cloud, I'm not sure how many folks here are new to the cloud, but if you are, try cloud practitioner first, and then based on your role, you might try different certification. But I recommend cloud practitioner first, and then solution architect associate. And probably you will check like how long it will take, right? On the website, they will keep saying like 2 months, 3 months. Ignore anything about this because we all have our own learning habit, And focus, like don't burn yourself out. That's what I would say. The next thing is meetup and conferences. Not joking, actually made a lot of lovely people in conferences and meetups because you always can find some ideas to integrate it with the current projects that you're working on. A lot of them, they might not be 100% aligned with the current project that you work with, right? However, you can always pick up something, and integrate it with it. Lastly, adopt AWS Cloud Architecture Framework. I'm not joking about that. AWS don't pay me to say that. And actually had slides to talk about it, but due to time constraint, I had to let that baby go. Okay, let me have a glass of water first. I was talking a lot. I'm not joking. I don't even talk to my husband that much. Okay, let's look at the architectural design of our chatbot project. So this is the overview of the architecture design. As you can see, I have to admit, this might not be the detailed one because I had to pick up a simplified version. Otherwise, we will spend too much time on this. But as you can see, it's not extremely complicated. It did not utilize many different services. So let me run you down through this flow. So the core will come from Avaya, which is a unified communication as a service. Then the core will transfer to AWS Amazon Connect, which is a public call center service. And then at the same time, it will play a core Lambda called greeting Lambda. So what the greeting Lambda does is actually play the greeting message to the user. Sounds simple, right? But actually it's doing data lookup in the meantime. So during the data lookup, it will try to check to see is there any cache in Dynamo. If there is, that's great. But what if it doesn't? If it doesn't, it will call the data retrieval stack. Once you get the data back, then it will cache it back to Dynamo because we have different bots for data use cases. So after playing the greeting message, the call, it will invoke a bot, it will invoke a Lambda called bot router, and the name explains what it does. Then based on the bot router's logic, it will direct the call to one of our bots. We use Amazon Lex to build our chatbots with Lambda, and there are many different types of bots there. But so far so good. What if our bot cannot answer the user's inquiry, right? Because you never know. There are definitely some cases we cannot cover right now. There are some in the pipeline. So what will happen is that we will transfer the call back to bot router, and then depends on cases, we hang up or transfer to the call center. After the call finish, it will use kinesis and then dump the data into a data lake. That's it. It would be so wrong if I don't talk about some concept about chatbot because this talk has mentioned chatbot, okay? So first of all is automatic speech recognition. So what is this? Is that this is the critical component of Amazon Lex. So what it does is that it converts spoken language into text. So how does it work? So firstly, the user produce a sound wave, right? The sound wave is captured to use as a raw input. Then you pre-process it using techniques such as like noise reduction, normalization, split it into manageable chunk. Then the audio signal is analyzed with extract features such as frequency, pitch, duration. Then the language model from Harry Potter stuff. I don't know what's doing behind the curve, but some stuff, I guess. At the end, it will decode the audio into most likely sequence of words and produce the final text output. However, this has some challenges. First of all, is the background noises. Noise reduction technique can mitigate this issue. But however, when you are in an environment that is extremely loud, the challenge is still there. Secondly, it's homophone. So for words, sounds extremely similar. To me, alpha, white versus bright. They sound very similar, so the bot will struggle to recognize which one is which one. So, and then lastly, dialect and accent, because we all have our own way to say. I mean, it's quite so far in there. What is intent? So intent represents the purpose behind the user's input. So you can define multiple intents to cover different user goals, right? So for example, if I take a bot like what its job is doing like a tour booking bot, right? You probably would have intents such as book to, cancel to, etc. And then next, we use natural language understanding to try to identify which intent is being requested to match with the user input. And each intent, it can integrate it with different multiple backend services. This way your business logic lives in, usually this way it lives in. However, intent comes with challenges such as like ambiguity in intent recognition, because user can express their intention in so many different ways, and incorrect intent matching can lead to a poor user experience because the context it won't just work. And then lastly, scalability. There are no doubt that each bot you have few different intent to cover different user goal, right? But when the number of intent grows in the chatbot, you want to make sure that each of them is correctly defined and does not interfere with each other. That's a challenge there. Lastly, complex intent logic. And well, that's the business logic, right? But think about it. So during the conversation, right, you are doing some async code. It will make the conversation feel less smooth. So you probably need to focus on how you actually gonna implement this to implement your business logic. So next thing is slot. So what's a slot? So slot is a variable that holds a specific piece of information in order to fulfill an intent. And each intent can have one or more slots. Like for example, for the book tour intent, right? You probably have slots such as, I don't know, tour name, tour date, etc. And then there's a building type, such Amazon Lex is a building type, for example, confirmation, number, and date. You can create your custom ones. For the custom one, like tour name, right? For the tour name slot, you can have variables such as like Belfast pub tour, Giant Causeway tour, and Titanic Museum tour, etc. You can also set validation to against the rule. So, for example, if you have a slot called such like tour day, you may want to validate that slot to make sure that the user provided the day is not in the past, because we can't control that, okay? And challenges. What's the challenges? Slot dependency and context handling. So some slot will depend on the value of each other, which it will requires like a context handling. But yeah, that's a little bit tricky to talk about. And another thing is like a slot value validation. It's good. It's crucial to have this. But however, you want to implement robust validation techniques to against all the slot, it can be complex. Lastly is conditional slot. So yeah, some slot might be optional and context dependent. So it's tricky to decide when to prompt for that, to ask the user to give that information. And also over prompting the user can make the conversation feel tedious. Why under prompting? It can lead to missing critical information. So funny story. Early this year, I was forming a chatbot to claim back some tax, and I was stuck in an intern. It was asking me for my national insurance number, which I provided again and again, but I believe it was overflown because some letters sounds really similar. It was having an issue to recognize my input. Instead of, I moving to the next intent, that bot literally kept me in the intent in the loop, did not let me to get out. So if anybody looking to design a chatbot, make sure you define something called like a default behavior for maximum intent when the user reaches. Otherwise, When there's a bug, user will just stuck in the loop, cannot get out. Lastly, utterance. So what is an utterance? So utterance is a phrase or sentence that a user say might trigger the intent, right? So for each intent, you can define a sample, a set of sample utterances that represent how the user might express their intention. So for the book tour intent, you can have utterances such as like, I want to book a tour. Can you help me to book a tour? I want to book a tour for tomorrow. Something like that. Again, user might not always say that exactly what you define in your sample utterances, but however, Amazon Next will still do its job based on the language model that it builds from the sample utterances that you provided to try to match with it. What I found is that the challenges in here, first of all, prompt design. So you want to design prompt that to make the user to feel natural and engaging. It sounds really simple, right? It's just a sentence of word. However, natural and also like engaging, that's difficult. Lastly is contextual prompt. So prompting that you want to manage prompt that adapt the context of the conversation. That's a really tricky part. For example, if I already obtained X, Y, and Z information, when I prompt the user, I should not even mention X, Y, and Z information. I should only ask for the missing one, but it's a little bit critical to do. So, okay, so let me show you one of the example of one of the capability that we have in our chatbot, which is the hurricane response capabilities. So during hurricanes, call center are often overwhelmed by the call volumes, right? How many folks here actually, when you phone the customer service, it just be like, please help, and you have to wait like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. If anybody who haven't experienced that, lucky you, okay? So how we do this is that we embed a dynamic variable, utilizing parameter store to create this community. So what it does, when the hurricane toggle is off, it will fast track the users to skip some certain intents, because at that time, what we want is that try to get the user to settle first, because there are some information we can collect later on. So at the beginning of this talk, I talk about the real life user experience about fire and claim, right? It was hassle. And I do believe that by implementing self-service chatbot, it could provide quality consistency, because if you're talking to a customer service agent, you don't know on the other end what that person is having a day, probably it's not that person's day, and yeah, it can be tricky. Scalability, you can always add up more business capability to there. Also, availability, when the core volume hits a spike, well, chatbot can handle it, what I'm saying? It's not like you have to wait for 20 minutes, something like that. Lastly is cheap, which is really crucial. For example, for a call, usually direct to the call center, it costs around $18 to $20, around that number. However, if this is done by letting the user to self-service in the chatbot instead, that's down to 4 cents. So if you wait a little bit, that's a really cheap solution. So yeah, if anybody wants to discuss more, please feel free to reach out to me or connect me on LinkedIn, Twitter, X, whatever. You can also find me here all day. Yeah, I will probably also smoking a little bit, but yeah. Yeah, I hope you folks enjoy the talk and wish you all a lovely day. Thank you so much for listening.